Hello again, students. This is your flipped grammar lesson for Storytown Lesson 18, Action and Linking Verbs. For this lesson, you will need your Whisk worksheet and a pen or a pencil. Let's get started. At the top of your Whisk worksheet, please write action and linking verbs next to unit of study. And then in the W section, write down where and when you watched this video. As usual, we'll get started with a quick review. What is a verb? Remember, a verb expresses the action or the condition of a person, place, thing, or idea, which is the noun or subject of the sentence. Every sentence needs a verb in order to be a complete sentence. All of the information on this slide is true no matter what type of verb we are talking about, so please keep it in mind as we work through this week's lesson. Let's see what you can do. Please find the verbs in these sentences. Number 1. The archaeologist was digging at the historic site. Number 2. Doctors go to school for many years. Did you find the verbs in these sentences? In sentence number 1, we have a verb phrase. Remember that from last week? Digging is the main verb. However, was is acting as a helping verb in this sentence. So, your total verb phrase is was digging. In sentence number 2, we have a simple main verb, which is go. I hope you were able to find the verbs in these sentences. Next, we'll be figuring out the difference between an action verb and a linking verb. In both of these sentences, action verbs were used. Let's take a look at what that means. An action verb expresses actions or activities that can be completed. Now, action verbs are usually pretty easy to find in a sentence because you can use one of your 5 senses to figure out which word is making the action of the sentence. Here are some new terms that we are going to learn in relationship to action verbs, however. These 2 new terms are direct object and indirect object. In a sentence, an action verb may have a direct object, though it doesn't always. And sometimes an action verb will also have an indirect object. We will practice finding the action verbs, direct objects, and indirect objects in the next couple of minutes. First, what in the world is a direct object? Well, the direct object is a word that receives the action of an action verb. In grammar, whenever you're talking about an object, you're talking about a noun. So, when you're identifying the direct object, ask yourself if it's a person, place, thing, or idea. Then, ask yourself who or what received the action from the action verb. Let's look at the picture on this screen. They climbed the Great Wall of China. In the sentence that goes along with the picture, the word climbed is very obviously the action verb. It's telling the action that happened in the sentence. Then we should ask ourselves who or what received the action, or who or what was climbed. In this case, the Great Wall of China is the direct object because it was the object that was climbed. In the next video, try to identify the action verb and the direct object of that action verb. In the previous video, the opponent received the action of being jabbed, which makes the opponent the direct object of the action verb, jabbed. Now, sometimes in some sentences, if you have an action verb, you might have an indirect object as well as a direct object. An indirect object tells to whom, to what, or for what the action of the verb is done. Now this sounds a little bit confusing, so let's look at an example. Check out the picture on the screen. The sentence in the caption says, "She told the lion a secret." So first I'm going to find the direct object and ask myself, told what? Well, she told a secret, and secret is a noun, so that's our direct object. Now I'm going to ask, to whom, to what, or for what did she tell the secret? Well, she told the secret to the lion, so the lion is the indirect object. Just like before, an object is always a noun, and sure enough, lion is a noun. In the next video, try to find the action verb, direct object, and the indirect object. We started by finding the action verb, which was showed. Then we asked ourselves, showed what? Well, we showed the path, which is the direct object. Then, showed the path to whom? The indirect object was us in the previous sentence. Now, let's take a look at another kind of verb. The next kind of verb is a linking verb. These verbs are a little bit trickier to find because they don't express an action that you can see, hear, touch, taste, or feel. Instead, linking verbs express a condition. And what a linking verb does is it connects, or links, the subject to a word that renames or describes it. So basically, the linking verb is acting like a chain between the subject and another word in the predicate. Yes, the linking verb connects the subject of a sentence to a word in the predicate. If the word that it's connecting to is a noun, we call that word the predicate nominative. If the word it's connecting to is an adjective, guess what? We call it a predicate adjective. Let's look at some examples. Here's our first sentence. That was easy. Well, we know that was is a verb in this sentence because we remember all of our tricky verbs, the forms of be, is, am, are, was, and were. So, was is the linking verb in this sentence. It's connecting our subject, that, with a word in the predicate, easy. Easy is an adjective, so easy is acting as a predicate adjective in this sentence. That and easy are being linked by the linking verb was. Here's another one of those tricky verbs. Remember, those were am, is, are, was, and were. In the sentence, sometimes clowns are scary. Are is our linking verb. It's connecting the subject of the sentence, clowns, with the word in the predicate, scary. And because scary is an adjective, scary is a predicate adjective in this sentence. Are is the linking verb that is linking the subject and the predicate. Before I challenge you to find the linking verb and the predicate adjective in the following video, I wanted to give you a list of some common linking verbs. Okay, now try to find the linking verb and the predicate adjective in the following video. In the previous video, the linking verb seems was linking the subject, spinning bridge, to an adjective that described it. So in that sentence, the predicate adjective was challenging. Now, sometimes a linking verb will link the subject of the sentence to a noun that is just restating that subject, like on this slide. In the sentence, Miss Rule is our teacher, the linking verb is, remember that's one of our tricky verbs, is linking the subject, Miss Rule, to another word in the predicate that is restating the subject. In this case, teacher. Because teacher is a noun, the word teacher is a predicate nominative. The linking verb is linking the subject, Miss Rule, to the predicate nominative, teacher. In the next video, find the linking verb and the predicate nominative. In the video, the linking verb was is. Is one of our common tricky verbs. In the sentence, is was linking the subject, parkour, to a word in the predicate that was restating it, sport. Because sport is a noun, it is the predicate nominative. Remember, linking verbs link the subject to either a noun or an adjective in the predicate of the sentence. That's it. In this video, we learned about action verbs and linking verbs. Remember, action verbs can have a direct object and sometimes even an indirect object. Linking verbs link the subject of a sentence to the predicate adjective or the predicate nominative. If you didn't understand something in the video, please feel free to watch again. Then in the S section, write a 5-sentence summary of what you learned in the video. Finally, in the Q section, write a question you might still have after having watched the video. And if you have no questions, please write a test question for your classmates. Be sure to turn in your assignment on time, and we will see you next week.